Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jeff Jones. I'm the Director of Education and Training for Blaze Sports America. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the webinar series presented by U.S. Paralympics and Blaze Sports America. Today's topic, Grant Writing 101, Key Elements for Success. Today's speaker is Gail Doyle, Associate Director of Programs and Grants for the United States Olympic Committee's Development Division. Gail oversees major gift fundraising, operations including budget management, donor acknowledgement and recognition, and professional communications. Gail joined the USOC staff in September 2000, most recently held the position of Manager of Grants and Research, and has presented several grant writing seminars for the USOC. It is my pleasure, on behalf of Blaze Sports America and U.S. Paralympics, to introduce Gail today. Thank you for being with us, Gail.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's session. And I would like to say, on behalf of the U.S. Olympic Committee and U.S. Paralympics, thank you to you, Jeff, and to Blaze Sports America for inviting me to present today. Also, we have a lot of participants on the call today. I plan to make good use of your time, and thank you for joining us as well. Today's session on grant writing is, as you heard, a 101. It's essentially a primer. I want to provide you with a lot of background information because my goal is to make you feel more confident. If you understand the process, you won't be as intimidated by it, and I want you to feel more prepared. We will learn the basic elements of a grant proposal. We'll discuss what makes a project fundable. I've also included lots of examples and writing tips throughout this presentation because the goal is to make your proposals more credible as well as engaging. We'll also review several online resources and websites because I want to leave you today with the sense that you can go back to your offices or pass these assignments to someone on your staff and they'll have a good head start. Because we have so many different people on the call today, we have executive directors and program officers and several grant writers, several graduate students, and so on. I wanted to start with a broader picture of revenue generation. Once again, just to give you more background and better understanding. In a fundraising office, a variety of funding sources is really important for a healthy giving program. And that makes sense. Just in case one area doesn't perform as well as you thought, you have some backup there. Revenue streams typically include the obvious, individual donors, maybe program fees or membership fees, direct mail solicitations. Some other examples that might be pertinent to your organization could be government contracts, for example, e-blast or text messaging to encourage solicitations, some type of online giving program. Also, annual campaigns is a valid part of any fundraising program. But the point is, funding comes from a variety of sources, and the timing of gifts is different. Holding an event auction, for example, or a membership drive is going to give you immediate results, where planned giving is certainly more of a long-term commitment. Grant writing falls into this long-term commitment category. It may take several months, even up to a year, to see any results from your grant writing efforts. Now, for those of you on the call in leadership positions, I want you just to take a minute to consider your staffing. Researching and grant writing, I think, takes a certain type of individual. So if you have to delegate these responsibilities, take a look at your staff and perhaps choose someone who is really into details. I think that'll help. Well, what do funders look for? Let's take a couple ideas at a time here. In general, funders are looking for clear, concise plans. They are not looking for ideas or concepts. Your grant proposal should address a problem or an important need, and similarly, you should be able to state that your project or program impacts a segment of society and has a fairly broad reach. That is to say, if your funding request is only for a handful of people, it might not be funded as quickly as something that would reach 100 or 1,000 individuals. In general, funders like to solve problems. They have money, they want to be able to make a difference, and they want to make a positive impact on a group. So for that reason, projects are generally a good fit with funders. But I don't want to discourage anybody, because bricks and mortar projects, capital campaigns, needing equipment, even general operating support, I can say anything essentially is fundable. But things need to be tied into people. If you can show the connection between your new recreation center or new rehabilitation facility and how many individuals or sport club members that will impact, that makes a very valuable difference to a funder. I'll just throw out an example. Say you need funding for a lap pool. This request would become much more powerful when you can state that the pool provides recreation and fitness opportunities for several hundred of your club members. Well, what else do funders look for? They certainly see their contributions as investments in your project or priority. So they want to feel confident that your organization is stable. They want to feel that they can trust you and the leadership on your team to spend their money wisely. And they're looking for reasonable goals and realistic budgets. I say that slowly because it's so important. Once you put something in a proposal, that's what a funder is going to remember. And they will likely come back to you. And if, assuming you would get a grant, they want you to essentially report on exactly what you said you were going to do and for what cost. Now, I will throw in a side note. So often people ask me, how much should I ask for? My general rule of thumb in a broad sense is to ask for about 10% of your budget total from any one funding source. But the bigger picture here is I do not recommend you approach just one foundation or corporate giving program and ask them to fund your entire program. Funders appreciate when an organization also can show community support. So just remember, community support does not have to be financial. It can be volunteer time. It can be a local business offering you VIK or gift in kind or some other service or product for support. So once again, be sure that you can list that your community wants you to be there, they appreciate your organization, and they believe in your program. So once again, the bottom line, I think anything can be fundable. It's just a matter of ideas and how we present them concretely. Well, how to get started? I think that in order to define your request for support, you need to just sit down with maybe several members on your team. Everyone's got a laundry list of what needs funding and your needs. But for grant writing, I think it's important to just narrow the field down to a few. Talk about what's achievable, what's realistic, what has a reasonable budget associated with it. And then plan to develop a proposal around maybe just one or two of those funding needs. I find it really helpful to break down my need by asking several questions. And I do this not only to be able to help articulate my need, but also to make me feel more comfortable internalizing it so I can write about it. And I use these questions with not only the organization, not only the USOC or US Paralympics, for example, but also the particular funding request. So just jot down some bullet points. When you and your team have decided we're going to try to ask for funding for Program A and Project B, well, take a closer look at them and be able to itemize what it is you're trying to do, why you want to do it, and how you plan to do it. This will also dovetail into how this project or this priority helps you accomplish your mission. And I'm happy to just, let's try to brainstorm an idea here. what it is, what am I going to do today? Okay, my funding request will be that my sport club is going to expand its services to include an after-school sled hockey camp. So why would I want to do such a thing? How can I show the need for this program? Well, I think my bullet point in that case might be something like research or statistics show that students with physical disabilities have fewer opportunities for activity, and that in turn negatively impacts their health and also has an effect on their performance in school or their learning skills. So we have a need, we have a problem, we have a program, an after-school camp that's going to address that problem. Now we need to think about how to itemize or define how we want to do it. Once again, we want to circle back to concrete concrete plans rather than ideas or concepts. So in my case, or my sample, I might put some bullets down like, I plan to hold camps 3 afternoons a week after school. The camps will be divided by skill level. We will provide transportation for kids, not on the central bus route. You know, I want to make sure that the kids can get to my program. What else? To encourage participation, I would say we would potentially go into the schools. We could go into some middle schools and host some demonstrations to get the kids excited about the program. How else can we achieve our goal of a new camp? We could ask the local NBC affiliate to perhaps donate some promotion time for us. And essentially, the next part or the next phase to break out your plan is to say, well, how will all of these things help accomplish my mission or help me achieve my goals? Well, the result, in other words, would be my sled hockey camps not only introduce a new sport to kids, but it would provide them recreation in a safe setting and a social setting, and in turn, the children would become more fit and potentially achieve higher test scores in school. So that's just one way of looking and really defining your request for support. If you can break it down into the lowest common denominator like this, it will help you in the long run to be able to present it more effectively. Well, so we've defined our request for support. What happens next? What do we do now? This takes some time. It is doing some research. It can be a little bit frustrating or tedious, but it's essential to the process. You know, you have to do your homework in order to have an effective product. My recommendation, though, to first-timers is to start locally. Generally speaking, everybody says, gosh, this takes so much time. I'm just going to go to the biggest funders out there. I'm going to submit 50 proposals. I'm just going to see what comes back. Well, that's just not a very strategic way to operate. I think larger foundations should certainly be approached. They will be able to provide you with more funding, but potentially I don't think that they'll provide more, they won't provide regular funding to you. I think you'll have a better opportunity and a better chance for success by tracking organizations that contribute to your hometown or to a local area, your region. I can give examples of local clubs, Rotary, for example. Community foundations are a good place to start. Corporate giving programs like Colorado Springs Utilities, for example. We used to ask for some small financial support from them because they like to keep their money local. Another good reason to start in your hometown is it goes back to the whole funder wanting to feel confident that you have community support. If your own town does not support your organization or your program or your project, then a larger funder is going to question his buy-in to your project. I've just listed some really basic sample searches for you, just some internet search keywords. Just put in the name of your city, Milwaukee, for example, foundation grants sports, and you'll likely come back with some immediate results on some local funders that you could maybe research a little further. Also, I've got some free sites listed here. I know that's a priority for everyone. Just tell me where to look, Gail, and tell me it's free. Most of you are probably familiar with GuideStar. That certainly has basic searches at no cost. You can take a look at some foundations that way. Also, I found one a few weeks ago called nozasearch.com. That's Nozasearch, nozasearch.com. And once again, all you have to do is register. You don't have to commit anything financially, and the foundation search portion is free. Fundsnetservices.com offers free fundraising directories for nonprofits and schools. So those are just some ways to start. And also, don't forget your local library. Here in Colorado Springs, for example, the downtown library has a phenomenal nonprofit resource center. So just do a quick internet search on maybe your city, maybe your state, maybe you have to go a little broader, to Maryland Grants Resource Center, and see if you've got something fairly close to you to check out. Researching does take some time, and hopefully on those free sites you'll be able to come up with a handful of foundations that you think you'd like to approach. But you have an opportunity here. This is the time to form great and often long-term partnerships. So you need to understand what it is you want to do and see if it matches the interests of your potential funder. So once again, save some time on the front end, do some homework now, and save both yourself and the funder time on the back end. So you don't want to get a letter in the mail saying you don't match any of our interests, we're not going to fund you. When you start taking a closer look at foundations, and this might be through an annual report or just a foundation website, even a foundation tax form 990, for example, I recommend you take a look at who they've given grants to and what dollar amounts they've given. That will help you determine, am I a fit, and how much should I structure my ask? If you see that an average grant range is around, $5,000 to $15,000, then it would be a safe bet to structure your proposal for about a $10,000 ask. Now, in my example, this happens to be the Stanley May, M-A-Y, the Stanley May Foundation in California, and that particular foundation seems to be a good fit for me. They like to fund children or youth initiatives. They also list that they support initiatives for people with disabilities. They give nationally. They're in California. I'm in Colorado, but they will still give to states across the country rather than just a specific region. They offer all kinds of support. If my request is for equipment, if I'm asking for general operating support, program development, they're willing to take a closer look at those proposals. Additionally, they have considerable assets and they do a wide variety of grants. So this is the type of match you're looking for. But don't be afraid to call a funder. I know that, once again, it sounds a little intimidating for a first-timer, but ultimately it'll save both of you time in the long run. Make sure you do fall into their guidelines. They might tell you by phone, you know what, we're not accepting any proposals at this time, but try again in January. We look to be doing some grants at that time. So go ahead and give a potential funder a call. My other piece of advice here when you're determining your matching interest is to read all of the guidelines. Each funder, I guarantee it, each funder is going to have a different way of doing business. And the key is to follow directions. Some might choose to hear from you with an introductory letter before you even apply. Some might want you to just jump right online and fill out a really short online grant request. Now, I will say my slides are really detailed, and I hope that serves you well. I want everyone to be able to go back to the office or to a colleague and really not leave too much for thought. I want it really clearly presented to help the next person in line here. So the basic elements of a grant proposal are going to be these items, starting with basic headers. You've got a cover letter. You've got organization information, some background on your organization and some history there. Then you jump into your proposal with your statement of need and your solution. So I have a problem. This is a social problem. I have a program or project that is going to provide a solution. And also state about how many individuals the project will impact. Additionally, you want to go into a lot of detail here, more so than on the background or the historical portion. A funder wants to know that you've got a stable organization, you're showing some growth, but they're really more interested in what is it you want to do. So project description is your how. How are you going to implement your plan? Include a timeline, how long you think this might take. The next key header would be the budget section. Once again, be reasonable, be honest here. Don't be frivolous or exorbitant and try to inflate your budget. And once again, as we spoke earlier about other funding sources, this could be gifts in kind. This could be pledged support, anticipated support. It doesn't actually have to be money in the door, but just show that you've got some other people interested in what you're trying to do. Grant proposals should also include a brief conclusion. Really, I like to be more positive in this area and say, wow, look how much we can achieve if we work together. With your support, we can make these changes and impact lives. So a powerful statement here. You know, you might choose to go the opposite and consider telling the funder what might be at risk. What would happen if we don't get the funding? Or what would happen if my organization goes away? What are the losses here? What impact would that make? So that's something to consider. Finally, an attachments area. You know, this is for the really detailed funder who wants to see maybe an annual report or have you submit a financial statement or your 501c3 letter. The point is, if you can compile all of these things, then regardless of a funder's guidelines, you have everything at your fingertips. You can cut and paste. You can reorganize into maybe a different order, but at least you'll have everything you need to pull from. You know, the next several slides are just quick sentences, but I think they're powerful sentences, and I think that's the key. While I'm certainly preaching that you need to be organized, you need to be have a well thought out plan, you need to also make your proposal engaging. You need to pull at someone's heartstrings, and I find these are just some ways to do that. These are just some examples of to gauge your line of thinking. My favorite is to absolutely hook the reader right off the bat with a quote or maybe a short story at the top of your cover letter. I've used this U.S. Paralympic Military Program example for quite a while now because I like it. I think it works really well. So here's our statement. It's a quotation from a program participant. My right leg was severely injured in a mortar attack. I was scared. I was angry. But thanks to my doctors, family, and the U.S. OC Paralympic Military Program, I learned to see myself as more than a casualty. That's powerful stuff, folks. Emphasize your points with these quotes, these compelling stories. numbers and data and some great action words. You know, we've mentioned target audience, how many people might your project reach, but how about this example? Down at the bottom of that slide, we state how the funds will be used. And this is a really great sentence. It's to the point. We would like to request $10,000. With this funding, we plan to expand our juniors wheelchair basketball program to include competitive teams, and we plan to add programs in 2 new Paralympic sports. Boom, boom, boom. There you go, folks. It's clear, it's concise, it grabs you, and it also helps the funder. Let's think a minute. Every one of us has 100 things to do piled up on our desks right now. Well, someone who sits and reads grant proposals all day is no different, and you need to think of ways to make your proposal stand out and keep that person reading and turning the pages. I think one of the key elements here is, maybe to say it a different way, is don't make it hard for the reader to figure out what you want. Just be clear, be direct, and show how much impact will be made with their support. You know, another, I think, great statement here, and I appreciate Paralympic Sport Tampa Bay for letting me use one of their sentences, is Paralympic Sport Tampa Bay plans to host a junior division tournament and also travel to the Pioneer Classic in Alabama to give our athletes introduction to competitive juniors basketball and allow their skills to further develop. So how is it you want to implement your program, and what are the results? These kids are going to further develop their skills as athletes by participating in these competitive programs. Now, I think without rushing too much, it's important to note that statistics and data are very important to include. I don't want you to go over the top here, but referencing statistical evidence adds credibility to your organization's mission, certainly emphasizes the need for support. I highly recommend, I've provided some examples of some research sites and some statistical sites at the end of the PowerPoint. I certainly recommend that you take some time to support your case. The second example is a great one. Children and adolescents with disabilities are more likely to be inactive than those without disabilities. Yet the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services notes that physically active youth have stronger bones, muscles, and may have reduced symptoms of anxiety and depression. So if the Department of Health and Human Services says we have a problem and I have a solution to it, once again, why wouldn't a funder want to help you? So once again, it just lends credibility to your ask. Present realistic goals. As I mentioned earlier, once you put it in writing, that's what a funder is going to remember. And they'll ask you to eventually report on your goals. So once again, I think this is a great area to just really bullet point your thoughts. We need to measure the success of the program because funders want to see results. I like to just use this format. You can choose just maybe to bullet point some goals and some outcomes, for example. But I choose a goal. That's a more abstract statement. Then I follow it by an objective or a form of measurement because that's an outcome that can be achieved in a certain time frame, so that would be something more definite. Impact X number of athletes. Impact X number of athletes over a certain time period or by summer 2010, for example. Objectives are going to be more concrete. And just like a budget, don't overstate. Let's just think of some really solid goals for your program. The second example is another favorite of mine. What's my goal? I want to introduce developmental talent to national sport competition. Well, how am I going to do that, and in what time frame? Well, I'm going to ensure that 10 elite athletes play in 3 national events by next summer. So I can be held accountable for that statement. And what's the outcome? Where's the result, or why should we be doing this? Well, it's important because our team members will not only increase their competitive experience, but they will develop player strategy. They'll also, I'm sure, develop better player relationships, and they'll gain confidence. So these are just a few examples of how you can maybe break down or structure your goals. I'm throwing a lot at you, I know, in a short amount of time here. But I think if you can use that basic elements of a grant proposal format and then go through measurements for success and just kind of do a checklist with your proposal, it will help you. It's really just meant to be guidelines for you. But let's go down the list. Do you have a project that's particularly compelling? Does it serve a defined group of people? Did you do your homework? Is your priority a good fit with the funder's interests? Have someone else read your document? Is it clear to someone who's maybe not in the Paralympic sport world, someone who's really not familiar with the terminology? Are you explicit enough? Have you clearly stated what it is you want and why you want it? Also, to hit on a point we touched on earlier, less information on past successes or programs outside of the grant request. I've heard this from several people who read proposals a lot, and they say, oh my gosh, so much time is spent on what happened in the past rather than how much I can improve people's lives right now through this new initiative. So that's certainly something to consider. Of course, we talked about engaging the reader using action words, invest, achieve, provide, transform. I'm going to transform someone's life through this program. I want to caution you, too, to stay. Acronyms are a part of our lives. I mean, the USOC has, obviously, USOC is one of them, IOC, NOC, et cetera. But as long as you clearly state what that means up front, so define your acronyms early in the proposal. That's just kind of a side note of mine. You know, use those research sites that we're going to talk about shortly because they will emphasize your need for support. Also, funders want to be a part of a program's success. So certainly in your budget area or somewhere else in this proposal, make sure you list other sources for project assistance. So who's contributed, who's pledged, who have you sent reports to and you're hoping for some funding, how many volunteers do you already have lined up for this particular activity. Funders want, it's almost like there's safety in numbers. They like to be a part of a program's success, and by listing other funders or other sources of financial assistance, it alleviates a donor's sense of risk to get involved in your program. Also, something really easy. The presentation is in an easy-to-read format and follows the funder's guidelines. Folks, this can be as simple as putting your organization name and page number on every page of your document. It sounds so basic, but I can't tell you how many proposals I've read, and I don't know who it's from after I misplace the first page, and it just makes things a lot easier. To be realistic here, not all proposals will be funded. It's really hard not to take it personally because you've invested a lot of your time and a lot of your staff's time in this type of work, but that's the reality of the situation. Foundations receive hundreds upon hundreds of applications each year. Many very solid proposals will be turned down. But the key is, I think, to call a foundation. If you get a decline letter, it can't hurt to take the time to call and say, what could I do better next time? What might I do differently? And you might either get, A, some really great suggestions, some feedback, or you might find out, you know what, they ran out of money early this year. I just missed their window of providing grant support, and I'm going to reapply. Well, we're going to stay really positive here. You have all of your measures for success. We're going to say that after several months, you get a really great letter in the mail that says, you have been awarded a grant. We're sending you a check soon. What do you do next? The first thing you need to do is acknowledge the gift immediately. I know that sounds so basic, but I can't tell you how hard it is sometimes to think, oh my gosh, I need to sit down and write a thank you note when I've got several other things pending on my desk right now. But it is really critical. Once again, you're trying to develop a relationship here, especially going for that local funder where you're going to have more opportunity. You might get smaller gifts, but you'll probably have more regular funding coming in from a local organization. So develop that relationship. Thank that funder immediately. Allow the funder to review any press materials. Once again, that gives you another great touch point. It gives you an opportunity to be on their radar again. Use the funds in a specified manner. Whatever you stated in your proposal, they're going to ask you for a report on how those funds were used later on, and you don't want to deviate from that. I would hate to have any of you have to return funds because you didn't use them in the specified manner. The funder will send you a letter in most cases that says, here's when we want to hear from you again. We want a report on your goals. How did you do? How did you measure against those goals? How were the dollars used? Did you find your program successful? We need to hear from you within 6 months. Folks, put that on whatever system you use. I am old school. I use a notebook that sits under my desk, and I have it tabbed by month, and I just refer to that every month to ask myself, okay, who do I need to write to this month and provide them with a progress report. Report good and bad news. Let's say your event wasn't as successful as you'd hoped, or maybe you didn't have as many participants as you planned. That's okay. But be able to state what you would like to do differently next time, and maybe you can incorporate that into the next proposal to the same funder. Keep the funder on mailing lists and invite these funders, these organizations to special events. Additionally, I think inviting program officers or potential donors to tour your facility or to attend a clinic either before or after the grant is a really smart move, because that person can see the value of your organization and the value of the program. Also, a final point on funders is that a lot of times they know each other, they talk to each other, so make sure you're reporting accurately. They read the paper, they might see if something didn't go as well as planned, or maybe there's a hiccup in your management or something like that. So just be straightforward about it. Before we get into questions, I would like to just state that I have listed a number of websites. This is certainly not inclusive by any means, and I'm sure you all have a variety that might not be on this list, so I'd love for everybody to share. Some of these are, most of these are free sites, some are paid or a subscription site, but they all have some value and they might give you better ideas. But you can find sample grant proposals here with these sites. You can find other funding opportunities, perhaps organizations that are accepting proposals right now. Proposalwriter.com is a great one. The NOSASearch.com reference we already talked about, I thought that was very useful. Grants.gov. CRC America is the Colorado Resource Center for Nonprofits, and while the majority of you won't be from Colorado, but you can still get some very valuable information from that website. It might also help you locate a more local resource center, something in your state or your area. I would like to encourage, too, there's a website on here called philanthropy.com. That's really for the Chronicle of Philanthropy. That is a paid subscription service, but it's, to me, very nominal for the value that you receive. It's, I think, about $72 or $75 a year. I know that my subscription is up for renewal here any day now, but you might even want to perhaps go to another nonprofit or maybe an organization down the hallway from you and ask to share a subscription to Chronicle of Philanthropy, because it's a very useful funders trade publication. Finally, we had talked about using statistics, using demographics, using being able to reference some data to show the need for support. Here are a few examples I found specific to data and this topic. Department of Health and Human Services, for example, hhs.gov, Census Bureau, Office of the Surgeon General, that's a good one, surgeongeneral.gov.